So you're hiring a head of people, and in part one of this video series, we talked a little bit about the landscape and the environment that you are recruiting in particular, the environment that heads of people have been operating in over the last several years. But now I want to kind of shift forward into helping you really understand the drivers and motivators of today's heads of people so that you really understand the profile in a different way. You know, and I think the most important thing to establish is when you think about top performing chief people officers, heads of people, whatever title it might be, they view themselves as business leaders, not HR leaders. And I'll explain what that means. You know, I think a lot of times historically, the field of HR was insular, and you had people come into the field of HR, work their way up into that top role. And, you know, their experience, their perspective, their views were largely shaped by spending a lifetime in the field of HR. And today's profile of heads of people, you know, does also contain that profile, but also contains people who have been inside and outside of different areas of the business. And when you think about top performing heads of people, the thing they have in common is that they bring a certain level of business acumen and understanding to the role beyond just their domain expertise in HR. And to hire a great head of people, you've got to create an environment where you view them beyond just a quote unquote HR leader. They're going to be valuable to you in other areas of your business. When you think about, again, the top performing heads of people, they have one of the hardest jobs in the C-suite. They have to understand the financials of the organization like a CFO. They have to understand the go-to-market strategy like a chief revenue officer or chief marketing officer. They have to understand intimately the 2 to 3 year strategic plan for the business, the threats, the market conditions. And they have to take that understanding. They have to understand their peers' worlds in ways that no other C-suite executive quite does, aside from perhaps the CEO. And they have to create a dynamic people and talent strategy to help the business support and meet its objectives and goals. And now you're dealing with the volatility that is people, right? And that's fluid, and there's external circumstances that are also impacting that. So it is a highly strategic job. It is a highly business driven and influencing job. And I think today's top heads of people view themselves in that way. And so step one, when you're thinking about the drivers and hiring a great head of people, do not put them in a box. If you solely put them in a box labeled HR, people, talent, whatever you call it, it's going to be a hard time attracting them, and it's certainly going to be a hard time retaining them. The other piece that is hugely important, and we'll talk more about this in the next chapter on designing your interview process, is values alignment. You're not always going to agree with your head of people. And when I say you, I'm talking to CEOs or founders specifically. You're not. And that's all right. Frankly, you shouldn't. They should have a point of view and a perspective based on their experience. And their job is to be, in a lot of ways, the truth teller to the CEO and the M team. They're going to tell you things you don't want to hear if they're good. They're going to push back and perhaps steer you in different directions if they're good. You don't want somebody who is necessarily going to be on the same page with you every step of the way. What you do want and what they do want is the values alignment. That has to be core and consistent. The idea is you're going to butt heads from time to time. You're going to disagree. That's part of the nature of that relationship. But that value alignment is core. And again, when you're designing your interview process, you've got to make sure you create ample time to understand what the values are, how they align or don't. The other thing that you really want to do is you want to make sure that you're empowering your head of people. You know, if you're investing in bringing in a transformative people leader, you have to let them run that team. And when you think about the mindset of heads of people, they want that autonomy. And it's not about authority. It's not about a seat at the table. Great heads of people don't give a crap about a seat at the table. They're there. There's no insecurity. They know the value that they bring to the business. But they do want to be in an environment where they're trusted and they're empowered to lead. And your role as a CEO or a founder leadership team is to basically create conditions where they can do that and give them that authority. That's really important. And in this environment, that is how you're going to be able to understanding kind of the mindset, the drivers, the wants, the desires of modern kind of high impact heads of people. Understanding that is what's going to allow you to create an environment where they can come in and do their best work and take your business forward. So in the next video in the series, we're going to actually talk about that interview process. What does that look like? How is it designed? How is it perhaps different than other executives or other candidates? And that will be the next chapter of the series on how to effectively hire your head of people.